Killers who didn't realize they were being recorded.
On the morning of June 11, 2021, CCTV cameras across Wembley, London captured a woman walking around with a large blue suitcase. On the surface,
she is a human in the suitcase, doesn't she? Wasn't there a guy that recently did that was on a podcast? He was like an ex-con that was on Joe Rogan, and then he like sliced somebody's body parts up and like transported them out in like different suitcases or some shit. Why is that like the go-to method of removing a body? Like cutting it up and putting it in a suitcase.
The footage is completely ordinary. However, this footage would
I don't know. I mean, I'm saying that like I would have a better plan on removing a body.
Soon become key evidence in one of the most brutal crimes in Wembley's recent history.
I still have the take, dude. I had this argument with my friend. Not an argument. It was more of a debate. Like, if you killed somebody, how would you hide the body? Bro, this is literally how I would do it. You kill somebody, right? I'm dissolving their flesh in acid, right? And then, no, listen, you dissolve their flesh in acid, and then you grind their bones up into a concrete mixture and just lay a new driveway. This isn't Breaking Bad. I'm not saying it's Breaking Bad. You're acting like I'm copying Breaking Bad. I'm saying the bone part is you just cremate them. Great job, Zod. Where are you getting a cremation machine, bud? Where are you getting a cremation machine, bud?
Incident took place the evening of
How are you gonna do that? I own one.
June 11, when the Metropolitan Police received a call from a man in distress. He was a temporary resident at a house on Chaplin Road, and according to him, the owner of the house, a 67-year-old woman who went by Deborah, was missing. Her phone and glasses, the two things she always kept on her, were also still in the house. But what made her absence most concerning was the fact that Deborah had a history of severe mental health struggles. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and at one point believed that Prince Charles, along with the country's prime minister, were communicating with her through YouTube. Deborah also had no family in the country she could have gone to either. The only people who knew her were those who attended the same church as she did. And speaking with people from the church gave investigators their first lead. One of Deborah's friends, 37-year-old Gemma Mitchell, told officers that Deborah had been depressed and that she went to stay with friends close to the ocean. Unfortunately, this lead turned out to be a dead end, as none of the
When somebody has schizophrenia, like they're saying she has schizophrenia and she thought that she was communicating with King Charles through YouTube. Is she actively on meds while she's having those interactions? Like, is that on meds or off meds? Because I'm assuming I'm not an expert on schizophrenia, and I know some people in my chat have schizophrenia. So I'm assuming that has to be off meds. Like, there's no way that's just like, if that's off meds, or if that's on meds, what would off meds be like?
CCTV cameras around her home captured her leaving that morning. Investigators also didn't find any records of her using a taxi service or public transport. After 2 more weeks of fruitless searching, investigators had nearly run out of all potential leads. They needed a breakthrough, or the case risked going unsolved forever. Fortunately, the search finally reached its end on June 27, but in the way investigators feared most.
Hi, I just found a body. Oh, go ahead, caller. What's your emergency? I just found a body. Right, okay. A body, is it... Are they breathing?
Let's give a little bit more fucking info here, eh? So calm, too.
No, they're dead. They look like they've possibly been there, like, a few days or something.
A hiker discovered the remains of Deborah.
Bro, what? I'm more shocked about that call. Like, I understand her remains were found in the mountain, and that itself is crazy. But, like, you're a hiker that stumbles upon a dead body, and you're like, just found a dead body. That looks like they've been here for a few days. No, I can't really tell. The skin's quite purple.
On a wooden path next to Bennett Road in Solcombe.
I'd be freaking the fuck out. I'd be like, that's a dead body.
Been over 200 miles from her home in Wembley. The worst part about this discovery, however, was the condition investigators found her in. This wasn't a case of going for a hike.
Could be in shock. Or, yeah, you know, you're trying to be calm. I mean, that is the best thing to do, is be calm when you're calling a dispatcher.
And having an accident. Instead, someone had surgically decapitated her head, which was later discovered about 30 feet away from the rest of her body.
I don't know how she's staying calm, Chad. I understand she's in shock. Now I'm really sure her body, she was decapitated. Her head was 30 feet away from her body.
Autopsy results also showed signs of blunt force trauma to the head. With that, the case shifted from a missing person search to a homicide investigation. However, finding the culprit was going to be easier said than done. Largely because Deborah never gave anyone a reason to take her life. Despite her mental health struggles, everyone who knew her described her as extremely kind and compassionate. She was even letting the temporary resident who filed the missing person report live with her for free since he couldn't afford to pay rent. But while investigating those closest to her, investigators noticed something suspicious about Gemma. CCTV cameras captured Gemma walking toward Deborah's home with a blue suitcase on the morning of June 11, the same day she went missing at around 6:30 a.m. Hours later, the same cameras captured Gemma walking back, this time with 2 suitcases. She was also struggling more to roll the suitcase.
Yeah, walking backwards. Like, I understand in a killer's mind, it's like, hey, this makes me look less suspicious because it's a suitcase. But if I'm watching somebody walk backwards with 2 suitcases because it's too heavy, I'm going to go, what the fuck do you have in there? That's more suspicious. Like, I actually think you walking backwards with 2 suitcases in broad daylight like this is worse than if you just had like a weirdly shapen trash bag with a dead body in it, like over your shoulder.
She was also struggling more to roll the suitcases, suggesting that, unlike before, they were
they're not walking backwards? Well, I can't tell. It's in fucking 120p. Side note, why is every CCTV in 120p? Why is that? I understand it's like cheaper, less energy. I feel like a 1080p security camera, even like a 480p security camera, that can't, I understand it's cheap, Brady, but I'm saying like how much more expensive is a 120p camera to like a 720p? I feel like it's got to be like tens of dollars, man. Less storage? Yeah. Okay, because they're saving the footage.
This made Gemma the primary suspect in Deborah's
Storing 4K footage is expensive? Well, I'm not trying to say you get 4K footage, Brady.
Murder, prompting investigators to look into her more closely, which turned out to be the right move. On the 26th of June, CCTV cameras captured her struggling to load the same blue suitcases into the back of a rental car. She then drove to the same road where Deborah's remains were found a day later. This was enough evidence for the police to obtain a warrant and arrest Gemma on July 6.
Oh my god, is this them arresting her? Or is this just another fucking...
Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good. Was your answer?
Was he just banging the door down with like a battering ram and then just had a casual conversation with her when she opened the door?
Was your answer? Sorry, what's your name?
Sorry, we were asleep.
Are you Gemma?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, Gemma. Just could you hold a second?
She's yours.
Come on a second.
Sorry, could I ask Gemma?
Bro, Brady, why did your account just actually say spam detected? If you continue, escalated action will be taken. Brady just dishing out threats in chat. It's a bug.
Do you want to come out?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just want to see them.
Hand just so I see your hands. All right, Gemma, at this moment, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder.
Gemma didn't even try to plead her innocence and went with the officers without any resistance.
But like, why did she kill this woman?
Almost as if she was already expecting them to some extent. She also remained silent at the station, answering every question with a
And then she just dumped the body in a hiking trail?
cold no comment. But now that she was under arrest, authorities were able to search her home, and it wasn't long before everything became clear. You see, Gemma lived with her mother in their home on Bronsbury Park. The house was worth over £4 million, but it was in rough shape. So they hired a contractor and paid him over £230,000 for the renovations. Unfortunately, the contractor ran away with the money, leaving Gemma and her mother with an incomplete home and no money to fix it. That's where Deborah stepped in. She knew Gemma from church and considered her a friend. So after learning about her struggle, Deborah offered to pay over £200,000 for the renovations. However, in early 2021, Deborah was admitted to a mental facility where she received treatment for her schizophrenia. This treatment seemed to be very effective, as she was now thinking a lot more clearly. It also resulted in her
Oh my god, and then went, yeah, I'm not gonna pay for this.
reconsidering her offer to Gemma and withdrawing it completely by early June. She instead told Gemma to sell the house and use the money to live a good life. Phone records revealed a message she sent to Gemma.
Yeah, like, even if it needs $230K worth of work, like, you could still sell that house for like £2 million plus, right? Like, that's enough retirement money for you. Like, I mean, not retirement necessarily, because you're going to need to buy another place to live, but like, that's enough seed money to basically work for 5 more years and then retire. That's $5,337,000. Well, that's if you sold it full price.
On June 8, reading, "Until you sold house, I won't want you to come to me or my house. I'm stressed to the core." However, Gemma did not take this kindly, and on the 11th of June, she went to Deborah's home with the intention of ending her life. After committing the crime, she stuffed Deborah's remains in the suitcase and brought it back home, which is why
And what is this solving? She's actually, like, this is, like, weirdly malicious. Like, beyond just, like, oh, you fucked me out of money. She's getting nothing out of this. Like, she's not getting money. She's not getting anything. It's like this lady that had schizophrenia and only agreed to it because she was in a bad mental state gets help and then goes, okay, maybe it's not a great idea to give you $250,000 fucking dollars. And so you just get angry and kill her. Like,
I looked much heavier on the way back.
people are crazy. I know, dude, but it's just like, I can't get in that mindset. You know what I mean? Like, do you ever try to put yourself in the shoes of, like, people? You know, you do it every day. You know, oh, what's it like to be a bus driver? What's it like to be, like, somebody like this? But it's like, I can't get in the logical mental state of this. Like, if she was doing it, I'm not saying it's right to kill somebody in any extent. But say she killed this woman, which removes a lien on her house, so then she has, you know, she has the ability to sell it. Then I'd go, okay, she's doing this for some sort of financial personal gain. Like, she actually gets nothing out of killing this woman. Like, it is actually purely malicious. There's no gain. There's nothing. It's just like, I'm doing this so you're not here anymore.
Before disposing of her remains in Solcombe 2 weeks later. Her true motive also came to light when investigators discovered a forged will in Gemma's home, naming
Okay, never mind.
her and her mother as the sole beneficiaries of Deborah's entire estate. All of this was more than enough evidence to convict Gemma. She stood trial on October 2022 and was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 34 years behind bars.
Like, her being money hungry doesn't make it better, but it makes it at the lines connect. You know, it goes, okay, I understand why you were in this position and why you did this. Not saying it's right, because it's not, but it's like, I get that, you know, like, I don't want to say I get that because that makes it sound like I agree with it. I don't agree with it. It's like, you doing it for money is like, I understand why a human would try to do that. There's a reason, not an excuse. Yeah, perfect words, Jayski. Don't know how to say your name.
On July 7th, 2021, 23-year-old Chandler Halderson went to the local sheriff's office and filed a missing person report for his parents, 50-year-old Bart and 53-year-old Krista. According to Chandler, the two had gone to their family cabin in White Lake on July 2nd to spend the weekend. The last contact he had with them was a message from Krista writing, "Made it safely, can't get anything through, and yes, it's packed. Going to White Lake today for the parade, and we'll come home Monday night/Tuesday early. Love you lots." It was Wednesday now, and the two had still not returned. Their phones were also going straight to voicemail, leaving Chandler with no way to determine their current whereabouts. Now, the simplest explanation was that they simply decided to extend their stay, and that they weren't able to inform Chandler because of the bad cell signal at the cabin, which was a known issue. However, this was completely out of character for them. Bart was extremely punctual and responsible, and Krista was on the verge of losing her job if she didn't return soon. Chandler was understandably worried about the safety of his parents. To make matters more complicated, they didn't go to the cabin on their own. Instead, they were apparently picked up by friends that Chandler didn't know about. Officers quickly began looking for the couple while Chandler reached out to local media, hoping someone with information on Bart and Krista might come forward. The most obvious place to look for them was the cabin, but when officers arrived at the location, they were surprised to see it completely empty. They had to break open the front door only to find zero signs of recent activity. Look for them was the cabin, but when officers arrived at the location, they were surprised to see it completely empty. They had to break open the front door only to find zero signs of recent activity. It seemed like Bart and Krista never made it to the cabin.
Yeah, never
But
even
if
went
that
there
was
to
the
begin with.
case, why did Krista tell Chandler that they made it safely in her text?
Somebody else texted.
In the meantime, Chandler turned to the neighbors to check if any of their doorbell cameras captured anything about Bart and Krista, but that didn't prove very useful either. Without any other leads, investigators went back to the Halderson home to look for any clues. They also brought Chandler in for questioning since he was the last person who saw the couple. Though, until now, Chandler appeared to be a perfect son. Despite living with his
Oh my god, did he kill his fucking parents?
parents, Chandler was doing very well for himself. He had already gained valuable work experience in several different fields at just 23 years old, and had even received a job offer from SpaceX. Unfortunately, before he could accept the offer, he accidentally fell down the stairs. This resulted in him sustaining severe nerve damage in the legs, forcing him to reject the SpaceX offer and focus on recovery. He had also been very cooperative with the police up until this point. But, as it turned out, the concerned look on his face was nothing but a complete lie. His behavior started becoming suspicious as soon as he was brought in for questioning. Not realizing he was being recorded, Chandler was seen in the interrogation room putting his head up against the wall, almost as if he was trying to listen in on what the detectives knew, likely so he could adjust his story accordingly. The investigators searching his home also discovered some rather concerning
He didn't think about there being cameras in a fucking interrogation room?
evidence. This included things like missing floor tiles and cabinets from the kitchen, a broken glass pane from the fireplace, and most concerningly, splatters of recently cleaned blood all throughout the house. However, Chandler seemed to have an excuse for everything. He blamed the missing tiles and cabinets on renovations, and claimed the fireplace glass broke while playing with one of his dogs using a tennis ball. As for the blood,
Yeah, I mean, that's not itself that suspicious that he killed somebody in a struggle.
Chandler
The blood is sketchy, though.
claimed that it came from Krista having excessive nosebleeds and from Bart getting a deep cut on his leg while doing some repair work at home. But investigators were starting to notice some inconsistencies in his statements. For instance, at one point during the interview, Chandler claimed that he couldn't drive because of his leg injuries. But not long after, he mentioned driving to multiple places to celebrate the 4th of July holiday. However, despite their suspicion, investigators had no proof of any foul play from Chandler. That is, until they received a call from a woman named Cress. She was a family acquaintance of Chandler's girlfriend Catherine, and the two had actually gone to her place for dinner on the 4th of July. According to Cress, Chandler visited her farm in Cottage Grove on July 3rd, asking to use her pool. She said yes and went on with her day. But when she came back to check on him an hour later, he wasn't in the pool. Instead, his car was backed up to a wooded area next to the farm, and its trunk was open. Investigators rushed to the location she
Oh my god, and he was dumping the fucking bodies.
provided. And not far into the wooded area, they found the dismembered remains of Bart Halderson, wrapped in a tarp and hidden under some foliage. Around the same time, a different group of investigators discovered
Bro, that's like another level of fucking crazy, dude. Like, I don't like comparing like heinous crimes, but like killing a random person versus murdering your parents. Like, holy shit, Dexter, dude. No. Well, number one, that's a fictitious serial killer. But like murdering your own parents, cutting them up and then like dismembering them, like that's like looking at that. Like you're like looking at your own like that's fucking wild.
camera footage that showed the Halderson home in plain view.
Taking life is something, dismemberment just feels like a whole nother level. No, taking a life is, yeah, crazy. Dismemberment, crazy. Dismembering your fucking parents, dude. The people that brought you into the world, that you've grown up with.
According to this footage, Bart and Krista never stepped.
Like, how do you dude, it's not even inhumane. It's not even humane or animalistic. It's like, it's beyond that, you know? Like, murder is like an insane animalistic thing. Cutting up your parents is like sadistically, like serial killer psychopathy. Like, that's so nuts.
Foot outside.
Yeah, barbaric.
On the morning of July 2nd. In other words, the story of the mystery friends picking them up was a complete lie. But when confronted with this evidence, Chandler stopped talking and asked for a lawyer.
You know what happened. We're not going to tell you what happened. You know what happened. You were there when it happened. We're not BSing you, okay?
I wasn't there when it happened today.
We know more
I
than you think we know. Okay?
understand. But
There's people that have told us things. We have evidence. We have proof. More has happened. Okay. So your parents never made it to the cabin, and I think you know that. Okay. So you're asking for an attorney. We're not going to ask any more questions.
Sam,
Go stand up.
You want to stand up? Just come over here.
Krista's remains
How do you, like, you know, when they go, I want an attorney, like, how actually does an attorney defend you in this? Just pleading insanity? Like, you have to hard pivot that story. Like, innocence is, like, doable. Like, even in the OJ case, you could plead innocence, right? Like, they did, right? And he got acquitted. But with this, it's like, dude, you dumped the bodies. Like, you had the bodies.
were later discovered in an area near the Wisconsin River as well. Fortunately, investigators were able to
Imagine being that lawyer. Bro, there's lawyers that pull some crazy shit, though. It's wild how, like, the difference... I've said it before. It's wild the difference between, like, a bad lawyer and a good lawyer. Like, both. You could literally get, if you have money. I mean, that's why you see, like, you know, somebody said J-Oma. I mean, that's like, you know, like a meme on social media as well. But like, yeah, I know he is a good lawyer. But like, yeah, if you have money and you pay like a shitty lawyer, you could literally serve 30 years versus going free. Same case, same evidence, just one guy knows how to defend you better.
Find enough evidence to piece together exactly what happened
What do you think about AI lawyers? Is that becoming a thing? Are AI lawyers like popular now?
between Chandler and his parents.
Outdoor Boys? Dude, imagine, sorry, side note. You know how Luke from the Outdoor Boys used to be a DUI lawyer? The fucking, dude, the crazy feeling that would be. Being a guy that Luke defended, just seeing him like now this 20 million follower camping YouTuber. You're like, that guy got me out of getting arrested.
Parents and why. They found Bart and Krista's phones inside the house wrapped in aluminum foil to block signals, confirming they never left the home. Shell casings found in the basement also confirmed that he more than likely shot his parents before dismembering and disposing of their remains. CCTV footage from a nearby supermarket caught him buying the tarp he used to transport Bart. However, the worst of what he did was revealed when investigators found tiny bone fragments in his fireplace. You see, at around 3 a.m. the night of, a neighbor's doorbell camera captured a strange light coming from the Haldersons' home. It got extremely bright before going out.
Oh my god, did he try to burn their bodies in the fireplace?
Simply, this bright light his neighbor's camera captured came from Chandler trying to cremate his parents. But the fire likely got out of hand and shattered the glass pane, resulting in him abandoning that idea. As for why he committed such a horrific crime, that had to do with his successful career. As it turned out, almost all of it was a lie. He never graduated, never did any jobs he claimed to have done, and thus the offer from SpaceX was a lie as well. Bart apparently—
Wow. Just like full fabricating every aspect of your life, like a fake it till you make it.
Apparently found out about it, and instead of facing the consequences of his years-long lie, Chandler decided that it was a better idea to take his parents' lives instead. He stood trial in January 2022 and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. On the night of December—
Bro, instead of just dealing with his dad being like, you're a fucking bum-ass loser that lied about graduating college and job offers just so you could do nothing, like, the next train of thought is like, I'm just gonna kill my parents.
28, 2016, a home security camera mounted outside a garage in Albuquerque, New Mexico captured—
He was a bum? Well, he didn't do anything. Yeah, he was a bum. What do you mean? He didn't fucking graduate. He lied about every job offer he ever had and didn't get a job, and then his dad found out, and instead of dealing with his dad being mad at him, he fucking killed him. That's like beyond bum.
a seemingly bizarre scenario. It showed a hooded figure walk out of the darkness, gently tip over a trash can, and then disappear.
Sorry, what?
It showed a hooded figure walk out of the darkness, gently tip over a trash can, and then disappear into the darkness once again. Not long after, the resident of the home noticed the trash can and came to pick it back up before walking back inside. The camera then captured the light from the garage door getting dimmer as it closed. But before it closed all the way, the door seemed to open again with a flashing light illuminating the driveway. This looked quite random at first glance.
Oh, hell no. He tips over the trash can knowing you're going to come get it. You walk out of the garage, try to get it up, and then right before the garage closes, when you're already inside, he puts his hand under so it scans it and reopens. Now you're in the house.
However, what happened in this footage served as the start to a brutally violent crime that happened in the same house. The story began earlier that night when 54-year-old Don Fluitt dropped off his daughter Sienna at his now ex-wife Christine's house.
See, you lose me, bro. You lose me. You lose me. I'm so bad at those train things, bro. Don's ex-wife Sierra's cousin. Lost me.
Next day, Sienna called Don's office, asking if he'd come to work that day. Apparently, he called Sienna every night to say goodnight, but he didn't call the night before, which worried her. And something was definitely not right. Don had never missed work without prior notice before. His phone was also ringing, but he wasn't picking up, which was very out of character for him. Many considered him the most upstanding person they knew, and it wasn't like him to ghost others out of nowhere. So, two of his coworkers decided to check up on him at his house that afternoon. However, when they reached the front door, it swung open. It was already unlocked.
Very side note story, but I do love friends and like coworkers that do that, where it's like, this is abnormal. I haven't heard from them in 2 days. I'm going to check up on them. I even heard the story about that one guy. Have you heard the story about the one guy that ordered at a pizza place every year or every Friday for like 3 years? or something, and then he missed like one Friday, and the minimum wage coworker went, "Where is he?" Calls the cops. Turns out he just had a heart attack, and they saved his life or some shit. Like, what the fuck? Or he like fell. I don't know if he had a heart attack. Something happened where like he would have died, and the random minimum wage coworker was like, that guy shows up every Friday for fucking 3-5 years. Like, this is weird.
They called out Don's name, but when they heard no response, they decided to go inside.
It was every day? Okay, that makes it even more crazy.
Everything in the house looked very normal. That is, until one of the coworkers went to the garage. There, she spotted a dark red streak on the wall behind the parked truck. She stepped closer to take a better look, only to come across what she was dreading the most. She called 911 and first responders rushed to the scene. Sadly, it was already too late for Don. He had several cuts on his body, a deep cut on his neck, and signs of blunt force trauma to his face. By the time his coworkers found him, he had already been dead for several hours. The Albuquerque police immediately launched a murder investigation. However, the only clue they had was this home security footage.
I mean, whoever knocked over the trash can's the person that did it.
It wasn't clear enough to make out the suspect's face, but the footage did suggest the intruder knew Don's habits quite well. He knew his daily routine, and more importantly, he knew Don wouldn't be able to ignore the trash can if it...
Yeah, to know the guy that well, it's somebody that's very close with him. Because most people in the middle of the night that see a knocked over trash can are going, "I'll get it tomorrow." Like, you have to know that he's compulsive enough to, like, need to fix that.
were lying on the ground.
It's got to be his ex-wife. I feel like it was like a self-report.
Giving him the chance to sneak into the garage while Don picked it back up. This wasn't a random burglar.
So she could get, like, custody of the kid or some shit. I don't know.
Or serial killer who just saw an opportunity. It was likely someone close to Don. Unfortunately, figuring out who this person was turned out to be near impossible. The first suspect police questioned was Terry Lee White, Christine's now husband. Given Don's history of an intense custody battle against Christine and Terry in the past, investigators began to look for any lingering resentment that could have boiled over into violence. However, when questioned, Terry was able to provide alibis for that night that
self-report? I'm not trying to make this into a joke. That was like actually just terminology. No, I'm not trying to make like an Among Us joke. I know this is a serious video. That's like actually the terminology that just popped into my head. It's self-report. That's what it is. Like, you fucking kill somebody, you call and you go, "Oh, fuck." That's what this guy did. He fucking self-reported on his parents.
completely checked out.
And he was the one that chopped him up.
The next two potential suspects were Don's brother Dennis, who didn't have the best relationship with Don, and the landlord Benny Ruiz. But while neither had a strong alibi, there was also no evidence linking the two to the crime scene. With that, the investigation was back at square one. It wasn't until March 31, 2017 that the killer was identified. It turns out the person who led detectives to the truth was none other than Don himself. You see, despite likely getting ambushed by the killer, Don did not go down easy. He fought back and ended up scratching the attacker. This allowed investigators to find foreign DNA under his fingernails and match it against the samples police had taken from the suspects. More than 3 months after the crime, Don's killer was finally identified as 51-year-old Terry Lee White. After clocking in at work as a commercial truck driver, Terry went to
It was the ex-wife's husband? Do you think she knew?
Don's place and carried out a plan he had likely been thinking over for a very long time. With the home security footage of him sneaking in Don's driveway showing how premeditated this whole thing.
That's so fucked. Like, I know, like, okay, there's a custody battle and everything, but it's like, dude, this is like the daughter you're fighting for's biological father that you, like, beat to death in his own house.
Was. After a brief manhunt, Terry was arrested on April 3rd, 2017 in Arizona, about 200 miles from Albuquerque. He stood trial in June 2018 for his crime and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
What about the wife? What? What about the wife? There's no way he was just like, I'm just going to do this and not tell her. She was innocent, so he just didn't tell her. I don't know, bro. You're telling me you're married to somebody. They're gone in the exact hours that this person dies, and you don't go, did you kill my ex-husband? I feel like that'd be, like, somewhat trying to connect the dots. Search it. I don't know. That's just upsetting. It just ends on like that. That's, like, literally like a fucking cliffhanger.